In the shadow of Japan's gleaming technological metropolises lies a hidden population of over 1 million citizens who have entirely withdrawn from society. Known as Hikikomori, these individuals represent one of the most extreme forms of social isolation in the modern world. Today, we'll explore this invisible public health crisis that challenges our understanding of social withdrawal and raises profound questions about contemporary society. The term Hikikomori, meaning pulling inward or being confined, emerged in Japan in the late 1990s. It was coined by psychiatrist Tamaki Saitō to describe an alarming pattern he observed: extreme social withdrawal lasting 6 months or longer. Unlike typical reclusiveness, Hikikomori represents a complete disengagement from society. These individuals confine themselves to their homes or even a single room, avoiding all social contact except with immediate family members. Most remarkably, this isn't a temporary phase. It often extends for years or even decades. The Japanese Ministry of Health defines hikikomori as individuals who refuse to leave their homes and isolate themselves from society for over 6 months. What makes this phenomenon particularly noteworthy is that many cases present no other diagnosable psychiatric conditions, suggesting this may be a culture-bound syndrome specific to Japanese society. In 1998, Saito's groundbreaking book, Shikaiteki Hikikomori, brought national attention to this issue. He described encountering young patients who had withdrawn entirely from society following relatively minor social setbacks, a failed exam, workplace humiliation, or romantic rejection. Rather than process these experiences and move forward, these individuals retreated entirely. They often live with inverted sleep cycles, spending their days consuming media and avoiding all responsibility. Saitō termed this a silent epidemic, affecting Japan's social fabric at its most fundamental level, the integration of individuals into community life. The phenomenon represents a profound disruption of social bonds that typically define human existence. Contrary to popular belief, hikikomori is not exclusively a youth phenomenon. A 2019 government survey revealed approximately 1.15 million hikikomori in Japan, nearly 1% of the country's population. This includes 613,000 aged 40 to 64, now referred to as middle-aged hikikomori, and 540,000 aged 15 to 39. The gender distribution reveals a striking imbalance. Approximately 70 to 80% of hikikomori are male. This gender disparity likely reflects Japan's particularly rigid expectations for male success in education and career. The phenomenon cuts across socioeconomic lines, though it's more commonly reported in middle to upper middle class families, where financial resources can inadvertently enable prolonged withdrawal by providing basic necessities without requiring the individual to work or engage socially. Perhaps most alarming is the duration of withdrawal for many hikikomori. The average person remains in isolation for 4 years, but cases extending beyond a decade are not uncommon. One government study found that 34.7% of hikikomori had maintained their isolated lifestyle for over 7 years. This has created what experts now call the 8050 problem: 80-year-old parents caring for 50-year-old hikikomori children. As parents age, their ability to provide financial and physical support diminishes, creating an unsustainable situation. The first generation of hikikomori identified in the 1990s is now entering middle age, and many have been supported financially by parents who are now elderly or deceased. This creates a looming crisis of unsupported middle-aged individuals with minimal work experience, atrophied social skills, and few support systems beyond aging family members. Government projections suggest that by 2030, Japan could face a crisis of hundreds of thousands of former hikikomori entering old age without adequate financial resources or caregiving networks. The hikikomori phenomenon cannot be understood outside its Japanese cultural context. Japan's educational system places extreme pressure on students to succeed academically. University entrance exams, known as juken, determine a significant portion of one's prospects for higher education and future employment. This creates a binary of success or failure, leaving little room for alternative paths. Those who fail to meet these rigid expectations may choose withdrawal rather than face shame. Japanese social structures further complicate reintegration through the concept of sakinte, social reputation, which means that deviation from expected life paths brings shame not just to individuals but to entire families. This creates a spiral of isolation. Initial withdrawal leads to falling behind peers, which increases shame, which deepens withdrawal. The traditional Japanese employment system emphasizes lifetime employment with a single company, which individuals typically enter immediately after completing their education. Those who miss this entry point or leave the workforce find re-entry exceptionally difficult. A hikikomori who has been isolated for years faces nearly insurmountable barriers to conventional employment, further entrenching their withdrawal. Intriguingly, some sociologists view hikikomori as a form of passive resistance against Japan's high-pressure conformist society. By withdrawing completely, these individuals reject a system they find impossible to navigate. French sociologist Michel Foucault might describe this as a form of counter-conduct against social norms, a rejection of society's demands rather than a failure to meet them. This perspective shifts our understanding from seeing hikikomori as merely suffering from a condition to recognizing their withdrawal as potentially containing elements of protest against rigid social expectations. Their extreme isolation becomes not just a symptom of personal difficulty but a statement about the society they've chosen to abandon. The role of technology in enabling hikikomori lifestyles cannot be overlooked. Japan's advanced digital infrastructure allows individuals to order food, entertainment, and necessities without requiring human interaction. Online communities offer a virtual connection that eliminates the demands of physical presence. The internet has created what sociologist Cherry Turkle calls alone together, a state of being technically connected but physically isolated. For hikikomori, digital technology often serves as both an enabler of isolation and a tenuous lifeline to the outside world. Online gaming, social media, and virtual communities may provide the only social interaction these individuals experience for years. This technological mediation of human connection creates a paradox where hikikomori can be simultaneously completely withdrawn from physical society yet maintain some form of social engagement through digital means. While initially considered uniquely Japanese, similar patterns of extreme social withdrawal have been documented globally. South Korea has perhaps the closest parallel, where the phenomenon is called ungwe, with government surveys identifying approximately 330,000 cases. Cases have also been reported in Hong Kong, Italy, Spain, France, and the United States, suggesting that extreme social withdrawal may be a response to common pressures in post-industrial societies. As global awareness grows, researchers are beginning to recognize that while cultural factors shape how social withdrawal manifests, the underlying drivers may be more universal than previously thought. Economic precarity, intense academic pressure, and increasingly digitally mediated social connections may be creating conditions where extreme withdrawal becomes a pattern across different cultural contexts. Treatment approaches for hikikomori vary widely and remain largely experimental. Japan's Ministry of Health has established specialized hikikomori support centers in each prefecture, offering outreach services and gradual reintegration programs. These centers employ a staged approach, first establishing contact through letters or online communication, then home visits, and finally group activities at local centers. One innovative approach is the use of rental sisters, female outreach workers who establish relationships with hikikomori through letters, eventually progressing to home visits and accompanied outings. This program acknowledges that many hikikomori, particularly males, perceive female companions as less threatening than male authority figures. Digital therapy has shown promise, with some programs using online gaming environments as transitional spaces where hikikomori can practice social interaction. The New Start program in Yokohama reports a 60% success rate in helping hikikomori return to work or education through a combination of digital engagement and graduated exposure therapy. These approaches recognize that conventional therapy models may be ineffective for individuals who refuse to leave their homes or engage with traditional mental health services. The cultural specificity of hikikomori raises essential questions about appropriate treatment approaches. Western psychiatric models emphasizing individual pathology may miss the sociocultural dimensions of the phenomenon. Japanese psychiatrist Takahiro Kato argues for a biopsychosocial cultural approach that addresses not just individual psychology but family dynamics, economic factors, and cultural pressures that contribute to extreme withdrawal. This approach recognizes that effective intervention must address not only the individual's psychological state but also the social context that contributed to their withdrawal. Family therapy often plays a crucial role, as family dynamics frequently contribute to maintaining the hikikomori state. Parents may enable withdrawal through financial support or develop codependent relationships that make separation difficult. Treatment approaches that fail to address these family systems often prove ineffective in creating sustainable change. As global awareness of hikikomori grows, the phenomenon raises profound questions about modern society. Is this extreme withdrawal a pathology to be treated, or a rational response to increasingly isolating social structures? As similar patterns emerge worldwide, understanding hikikomori may provide insights into broader social disconnection in the digital age. Some scholars suggest that hikikomori represent an extreme response to late-stage capitalism and its increasingly precarious employment conditions. Others see them as harbingers of a future where technological mediation increasingly replaces direct human contact. Either way, Japan's modern hermits hold up a mirror to contemporary society, reflecting its pressures, contradictions, and the human cost of rigid social expectations. The phenomenon challenges us to consider whether our social structures are serving human needs for connection and meaning, or whether they are creating conditions where withdrawal becomes an understandable, if extreme, response. The voices of those who have experienced hikikomori provide crucial insight into this complex phenomenon. As one former hikikomori explained in an anonymous interview, "Society told me I was a failure for not succeeding in the expected way. Eventually, I decided to stop playing a game I couldn't win." His words suggest that addressing hikikomori requires not just treating individuals but reimagining societies that offer multiple pathways to belonging, purpose, and dignity, even for those who don't fit conventional definitions of success. Other former hikikomori describe the gradual process of withdrawal, how initial setbacks led to shame, which led to avoiding friends, which led to missing school or work, which created more shame in a downward spiral that eventually resulted in complete isolation. These testimonies reveal that the path into hikikomori is often incremental rather than sudden, suggesting potential intervention points before withdrawal becomes entrenched. For those who have successfully reintegrated, the journey out of isolation is typically described as painfully slow, requiring tremendous courage and support. Japan faces significant challenges in addressing its hikikomori crisis. As the population ages and the first generation of hikikomori enters middle age without work history or pension contributions, the economic implications become increasingly serious. The social security system was not designed to support large numbers of people who have never entered the workforce. Additionally, the stigma surrounding hikikomori makes many families reluctant to seek help until crisis points are reached. Public education efforts aim to encourage earlier intervention, but cultural barriers remain significant. Research continues into more effective outreach and treatment models, with increasing recognition that prevention may be more effective than treatment of entrenched cases. Early intervention programs in schools and workplaces aim to identify individuals at risk of withdrawal before complete hikikomori develops. As Japan grapples with this challenge, other countries would be wise to pay attention, as similar patterns of extreme social withdrawal appear to be emerging globally, suggesting this may be less a Japanese phenomenon and more an indicator of broader challenges in post-industrial societies. The hikikomori phenomenon represents far more than a collection of individual cases of extreme isolation. It reveals fundamental tensions in modern society. As we've explored, these modern hermits emerge from a complex interplay of cultural pressures, economic structures, technological enablement, and individual psychology. Their withdrawal challenges our basic assumptions about social integration and raises uncomfortable questions about societies that create conditions where complete disengagement becomes a chosen response. As similar patterns emerge globally, the lessons from Japan become increasingly relevant worldwide. Addressing hikikomori requires not just clinical interventions but a reimagining of social structures to create multiple pathways to meaning, connection, and dignity. The voices of those who have withdrawn remind us that belonging is a fundamental human need, and that societies failing to provide accessible paths to connection may find more of their members choosing isolation over participation in systems they cannot navigate. The hikikomori crisis ultimately calls us to examine not just those who withdraw, but the societies from which they retreat. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. Your feedback is appreciated. We hope to see you again.